Welcome back, guys. We're here tied up between VSG and the ES Sharks 1-1, which makes it just one best of three to decide who's going to make it into the final match against GuGer on Sunday. We got the biggest VSG fan in the audience right here.
To be fair, the organization did pass around those cheerfuls for VSG, but they seem happy to be on camera, which we always love to see. Remember, if you are in Seoul today and somehow watching the English broadcast, please do come down. There are plenty of seats here, and I gotta say, we could be going late, but you know who's not going to game number 3? We talked about how VSG like to happily switch between their members. They're taking out Ryan, often their carry, and the catalyst for them to come back against APK Prince and bringing in Mighty Bear. Fans from EULCS days will remember his short stint over in EU. They are changing mid lane as well, so probably the Vladimir on the bench. Is Ruby out? Rem, is it?
Yeah, I would have to say that the Vladimir overall was not super impressive for me. And Rem, a guy that we casted in the Casper Cup, looked pretty good. Mighty Bear overall, though, still has a bit more impressing to do. But I mentioned in game 2 how Ryan honestly did not do much for them on the Jarvan with Warrior and kind of just sat back and died. So hopefully Mighty Bear can do a little bit more. As I'm sure as the night does go on, we'll have even more substitutions.
Happiness is together. I'm trying to read the Peanuts shirt behind it. That's all I got.
Together, wash,
friends.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Shout out to Charles Schultz. He made a pretty good property in Peanuts. Mighty Bear in, Rem in, but not a full configuration change. So let's see what it means, because no bot lane change like there was the other day. So Moo and Minute gonna be in the back. Let's see what it means for game number 3. Like you mentioned, it's just a BO3 now. We started the stream 1 hour 43 late. It's only a best of 3 now between ES Sharks and VSG. Now, something doesn't change. ES Sharks have side selection. They choose blue. 3 games, ES blue and VSG red. However, so far, the series has been early game versus late game on the blue and red side. It went 1-1. Does that very basic thing change in game number 3?
And do any of the bans change as well? In game number 1, we had Aurelia ban, but game 2, the Sharks banned Morgana in that 3rd spot. But maybe this is the time with VSG and some new members to try to change their banning and picking up. But so far, it's just going to be the same with Lissandra once again banned here.
Final ban on blue side. On tap, coming through from the ES Sharks. That is going to take away that Morgana. Frustrating champion with the Glacial Augment build in particular, so I don't mind it as a ban. And the Rise ban comes through. Okay, so that's going to be pretty standard. So one team's playing the same team. They're going to ban the same things in the same first pick. As the Galio comes out, doesn't show anything. We really thought Kuzan might be playing it, but ended up being the mid lane Lucian, so I definitely prefer those aggressive picks. The junglers are at full power, and it's kind of a little bit surprising to see Olaf ban against Mighty Bear, but if you look at his win rates, Olaf was also Mighty Bear's best pick, but not the Ryan hard carry reverse sweep that got VSG into the tournament.
Yeah, and this is a pick that I was expecting the Lucian to come through. In one fell swoop, you can hand it over to Veritas, and you can deny Kuzan his mid-Lucian once again. So they did that in game 1. It worked out for them. It wasn't necessarily the main reason why they won, but just denying it away from the side of the Sharks is not a bad idea as well.
And it's cool that we have something to get excited about, which is, when was the last time we had contested Lucian actually mean a lot? When we weren't talking about kind of highest power level start of the year. Both these teams have really good uses of the Lucian. I think Light is a strong Lucian player as well, and Kuzan makes those mid lane scaling matchups so hard. So, yeah, the Lucian could have been considered as a first pick. It just ends up being the Galio and Galio Rek'Sai. No arguments for the first round for ES Sharks. They're going to take an 80 carry, most likely round out their bot lane. Kai'Sa into Lucian, though, should be some Lucian priority in the 2v2.
Certainly a pick that wasn't expecting to come out this soon. We've seen the Varus be picked and also the Ezreal for Light in game 2, and now he's going to be hopping onto a Kai'Sa, so switching it up every single time. VSG thinking talking about the Akali, just hovering it for a moment, but will just fall back onto that very reliable loose Braum.
Rem this season has played no games of Akali. It doesn't fit SoaR's bread and butter, but I would definitely think he could consider it, but it wouldn't necessarily be kind of a trump card Akali, like someone like Chovy would able to flex on. So they're going to think about it, maybe try to force a ban. It's one of those things where you're probably going to have to, you're definitely going to have to blind pick solo lane, right, on the side of VSG. If you want to pick a flexible champion like, say, Kennen, then maybe saying, what about Akali, and getting an Akali ban rather than a Kennen ban or an Aurelia ban or one of their other more comfortable champions. The mind games of a hover can definitely be valid. See if ES Sharks do oblige, but again, based on history, not a big VSG pick.
Down to the wire. Weren't sure about that one, and maybe that hover is doing its work with the mind games as they get the ban of the Akali out of the side of the Sharks.
When Rem and SoaR are the solo lanes, 0 games played of the Akali in season 2019. So maybe, like you say, they pickpocketed something there. The Nico ban. SoaR probably wants to just play a tank, right? We'll see if that means last pick or whether he's going to be happy enough to take one earlier. When it comes to blind pickable champs, you say Kennen is looking pretty god tier at the moment. Pretty much most of the other high tier blind pickable champs are accounted for. So Lissandra is Rem's most played or most reliable champions pick. The Jace has seen nerfs, but is one you can consider. I imagine SoaR will be so happy to play Ornn into Kennen, and maybe he's just playing to Ornn into Jace. In this case, he might just be playing the Kennen. There is the lock-in there, nice and easy. How do the Sharks respond?
With the Tryndamere, of course.
What about the team?
How about the team, though?
Well, they've got a Rek'Sai, so this would be the Cuvée-style top lane Rek'Sai, which we're not going to see. I always mention it because I really loved it when I saw it. Now, GP's been seeing more and more into the Kennen matchup, try to grin and bear what, of course, is not the most ideal matchup, but Sterix Gage or Hex Drinker, you can get through the Kennen matchup in terms of the laning phase and just parlay him down. If you go Resolve Tree, so GP for some playmaking around bot side, another global, going on to ES Sharks. The mid-blind pick's an old Kuzan special. I was always a big fan of Kuzan's LeBlanc, so cool to see it come out in the promotion tournament.
It was banned by the side of the ES Sharks in game number 2 and game number 1, actually. But this time they allow it to go through, banning instead Akali. They pick it up for themselves, but Rem says, okay, I'm fine with that. I'll just play the Azir and try to scale up.
Definitely would have flirted with the first hover before he finally locked in the Azir. 1 game, 1 victory, 7-2-3. So had a very good performance on the Azir earlier in the season. We're seeing more Azir, which I'm a fan of. I think Azir is a pretty cool champion come team fights especially. Azir versus LeBlanc. LeBlanc corrupting potion in this matchup can actually take a lot of poke, you'll remember, because you come in predictably and the soldiers do their work. And will we see another unique Azir rune? Because we've seen so many different Azir rune paths just over the course of 2019.
All new stuff, people just experimenting, also going back to old reliable at times, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he does up against that LeBlanc matchup that he knew he was going into. Would expect Rem off the bench to be very confident coming into this match, so excited to see if he can do some carrying in the mid lane for VSG, who need to get some feet underneath them after game 2.
It's a tough ask, Valdez, because Kuzan is a great mid laner, especially by challenger standards, and his LeBlanc in and out of meta was always something feared when Jin Green Wings played. So this is a player on a known pick. Vlad, Lissandra, Corki, Lucian, LeBlanc. These are the picks I think of from Kuzan's multiple-year career. The Azir can scale through, but the S word was good in game number 1, not so good in game number 2 for VSG. Not as much scaling this time, but still, the mid lane is up for grabs.
Yeah, will be a bit safer, of course, than the Vladimir into Lucian that just got shut down hard. We'll see what they can do as it's now time to hop into game number 3 of the losers match right now.
Hello?
Summoners.
The Sharks are circling because they definitely didn't spawn. They weren't even on the screen.
I know.
How did they get there? Remake.
Where did they come from?
Remake.
This is not fair, Riot Games.
Well, the losers match draws on. I always say that when I read it, just because it's just
What
so
a bunch of losers. No, these guys are great.
I mean, they literally are a bunch of losers from 3 days ago.
Sure. They lost, you know, the games.
They're literal losers.
They're great guys.
But they
though.
seem like great guys, and they play video games way better than most. Not everyone, but most.
Better than all of the challenger teams.
And all of the chat. And us.
Hey, you don't know that. Maybe there's a pro in chat.
All right, if you're better than these teams, let it be known.
Yeah.
We can check it on the VOD later. VSG, we're excited to see Veritas' Lucian. Again, me specifically as an Australian, got to see this up and close all over the years, because once an Australian, even from there, you watch them go on to other regions. Korean player, but someone who spent a lot of time in Oceania, so definitely watch Veritas with keen interest. That's actually very on the nose, but Keen was another player who played in Oceania and went around the world, so we never forget our favorite sons, and Veritas is there. His crucial storyline, though, the one that most people know about, or right now will hear, 3 promotion tournaments towards the LCK, no qualifications, twice for CJ Entus in 2017, and most recently for Damwon Gaming. He was their AD carry before Nuclear took over, so this has been a tournament that's been a struggle for him. Now today, of course, will not be promoted with a victory, but if they even want a chance, VSG have to win to face GuGer on Sunday.
Yeah, and that matchup against GuGer from the Sharks was watching. It was not the greatest that I've ever seen, but feels like if either of these teams can get through each other and make it up against GuGer, it should be a much closer matchup, especially in a best-of-5.
Pretty interesting to see Ingenious Hunter on
second time, actually.
the
Took that in
Rek'Sai.
game 2 as well.
So the thing that people might not know is that Ingenious Hunter cooldown reduction works on the sweeping lens. It's something that's actually written in the client, but you don't always hover over that text. So while it's not a Predator jungler who usually takes Ingenious Hunter, there is going to be value there for the Rek'Sai and whatever active items she ends up with. It's going to end up being vertical jungling at this point, with the blue buff being taken on the enemy side of the rift by the Rek'Sai. So for now, at least, that means Kennen gets to push up and make GP's life hell. Pretty standard, but on the bot side, does mean that Lucian Braum, that duo we always talk about, has to have some second thoughts. Now, Jisu's low and doesn't have any stopwatches this early.
After this minion goes down, actually, he has to flash away. But again, you know, flash for flash, not the worst thing in the world this early on in the game.
Flash for flash. Ends up being more meaningful, I would say, on the Jarvan and his ability to impact multiple lanes and just in the one lane. Because the GP was already playing under turret. Now he's just playing under turret further.
Both going to TP to the top side as Katz is making his way. Nice interrupt there. Does land the chain as well. That's a huge chunk already.
Kuzan LeBlanc, baby. Nice when you big up a player and he's able to hit the chain, because notice that Rem has been pretty bold. He has no cleanse in this game, or barrier. His defensive option is to shove and back and teleport back in. Now, it works this time, but next time, when the Rek'Sai has ultimate, things will be different.
Yeah, would have been dead if the Rek'Sai was level 6, but not quite the case. Doesn't end up missing too much, actually, with that TP, so seemingly a good choice so far is that teleport.
Laning phase wide, Kai'Sa and Gallia being babied a bit by having the vertical jungle, so actually in a CS lead over Lucian Braum. Don't see that very often for a short-range carry like the Kai'Sa, but happening in this particular game. Will definitely take Veritas pure in terms of duo lanes, but it's all about performance with the game state, which was vertical jungling, which was top lane pushing in nice and happily, but top lane's the only lane with priority early. Mid lane, as we saw, has things to consider, especially with no cleanse. You can't really push up too far on the Azir. Bot lane being well held. GP ult not available yet, but could be used defensively to wave clear, or get some plays going. And if GP ults, Galio ults, there could be some shenanigans on the Rift.
Yeah, decent amount of squishy members on the other side, and it looks like there's only one stopwatch, which is currently on Mighty Bear, the Jarvan. So, speaking of shenanigans,
they've been enacted.
Not sure if he spotted him there. He's going to interrupt the back now. That's... Sorry, Light, you're going to have to take the long way around. Is it going to matter here, too? Kind of an awkward spot, but it doesn't look like VSG want to push the SU.
Got both backs, only interrupted the Braum, but Veritas worried about a turret dive, and obviously they had limited information, so understandably decided to move. Chain hits, but this is a nice damage trade-up from Kuzan, who used his teleport. Did Rem, and Kuzan did not, so trade-up for Rem. Kuzan might need to go another back before he starts to get more frisky in the mid lane.
Catches back, actually, down on the bottom side.
He still has his flash, even though he's been active. Here's a nice angle!
Oh, that is a fantastic engage into the flash knock-up. First blood goes on to Pure with the GP. Alley-oop from the top side. A little bit of an assist there and some gold to him, as first blood does go the way of the Sharks.
And that's the ES Sharks I saw in challenges, the ones that can make the multi-pronged plays that honestly we saw a lot of teams who pick GP around the world, but especially in the LCK not pull off. Well done there. It's Kuzan, aggressive.
Misses that knock-up, does Mighty Bear, but again, it's a LeBlanc who's going to be able to hop back on that one.
Why do you pick GP into Cannon? Scaling is the obvious word, but in the laning phase, you shouldn't die with oranges and playing defensively, and you have windows with your ultimate to gank the bot lane with your ult to get more gold and to get things going. So I'm a big fan of playing bot side when you have a GP. Happens in this game, and it helps for the first or second item buy. It was actually first item by Doran's Blade, which you don't see very often on the GP. I guess it was a gold value thing, but the Sheen is now done pre-8 minutes.
It's going to make it a lot easier for him down on that side, and you can see already Cat setting up some vision for this Drake to get a little bit more lucky this time around, with the Mountain being the first spawn and 3 control wards down in the bottom river.
No flash yet on Jisu, so they could try this kill up top side. Remember, there's no AP in SoaR's build yet, so he's going to want to auto attack.
The lane was pushing, but you can see he's trying to thin out the wave first so they don't get wrecked. And now here comes the flash on in with the Cataclysm, and Jisu trying to do his best. Do they have the damage? Yes, they do. Mighty Bear will be able to pick up that kill.
Takes a lot of time, and they will lose Mountain Drake for this unless they start rotating really soon. Seems unlikely they have control ward control of this bottom side river. So it took a long time, a lot was invested. They do get the kill, but it goes on to the Jarvan. Wait and see where Jarvan is going in terms of item build, but not always ideal, especially if it just accelerates some tanky items.
Mighty Bear really digging around this mid lane. It's just going to help push. It's going to be the case, but Catch using this moment to steal once again another buff away from the side of VSG.
This should have been communicated, and Mighty Bear should really be taking the blue already before I've made this one. If I've noticed it, the team should have noticed it earlier than that. Unfortunately, this just probably means they lose out on a blue buff on the second round here. GP was able to walk over and ward it. GuGer and Light are pushing in. A fast reaction would have been just to either blue buff transfer or to steal the blue yourself, and maybe neither here, as a full reset for the Rek'Sai is allowed by Mighty Bear.
Cat's just having a grand old time for sure, helping out his bottom lane, who already has 2 plates. Obviously the Kennen up in the top side was able to get 1, but the 2 for the Kai'Sa going to feel pretty good. As you mentioned, just going to be able to farm up his entire jungle, hand over the blue buff.
And the pause you have here as a VSG fan is, you don't pick GP to win lane. You pick it to win game and to ult sometimes. That part's happening. You pick Lucian Braum to win lane, and they are not. And that is, of course, not an ideal trade here. So even though the Kennen is doing fine, the Kennen has gone ultra into laning build. Double Dorans and Ninja Tabi before any ability powers completed, so it's not like he can transfer his lead very well. He just kind of gets small incremental leads over the GP, nothing more.
You can tell that Mighty Bear is getting a little bit frustrated as well. Misses another flag and dragons. Well, he comes in, he subs in, and so far hasn't really been impressing. It's definitely going to get on the nerves if you're that player, so hopefully for his sake he can turn that one around and be more of a impactful player in this game.
And I'm a big believer that if my Kennen goes this item build, that's to keep winning lane alone, and Mighty Bear does stuff elsewhere. If you also gank for this Kennen, it's so much invested into someone who's actually going to take a relatively long time for a Kennen to be teamfight ready. I think that's the same read that might not actually be reflected here. Catch is just there for a counter gank, even though Jisu's summoner is back up. They don't want to give up Rift Cow. It's not ideal to give up that objective. Mighty Bear was standing in one spot, but does start moving.
That spots him there. Lots of pings come out. You can see that GuGer was around just in case. But as was Pure. It doesn't look like the Rift Herald's going to be taken just yet.
Kai'Sa getting a big CS lead because she didn't roam and everyone else left lane.
Yeah.
It was on-screen a visible 15
He's going to get
CS
another
lead.
plate too.
Yeah, a solo one this time.
Massive gold right now in the pockets of this Kai'Sa.
Is there anything more blood-curdling as Kai'Sa hitting 2 items of Evolution does? Because that could happen in this game, Valdez.
I'd say it's extremely likely at this point.
Mighty Bear trying to play around leash range, but it's so predictable. Where else is he going to be than taking Rift Heralds? A Catch says, I mean, our GP's farming, and we don't want you to have Rift Heralds, so his best use of his time is doing that. Light finally takes a chunk, but how meaningful is it really?
Yeah. Kind of wins the trade in the end, but obviously life steal on both of these players as they both went for Blade of the Rune King here. Observer was pointing out the Cutlass early for the Kai'Sa, who did go for this build.
Oh, it's Blade of the Rune King. Okay, it's good that it's been cemented that way. Build that was started by Viper that took some adoption around the world. Double F called it trash and people stopped doing it. Even good old Viper was not going into it. I think this is more of, wow, Kai'Sa versus Lucian isn't that great. I need the Vamp Scepter into the Bilge Water early just to survive the lane. But turned morphed quite quickly into winning the lane. It's still fine. It might be able to get her some movement speed to avoid, say, a Streamer Shuffle or a Kennen ultimate, but it's not like the enemy team's super tanky, so it's not being cried out for team comp-wise either.
Fourth plate goes the way of the Kai'Sa, who's going to be hitting her timings real quick. In this game, Light is having a blast, especially after the last one where he was having a lot of fun on the Ezreal, and even in some of the times where we got to hear his voice, he looked like he was having a lot of fun as well. So definitely feeling it here so far in this series after game 1.
Series ESS should have a lot of agency soon. And ability to play the side lanes with the LeBlanc. And must be noted, Teleport Azir follows better than most of these mid lane kind of more control mages that try to answer a LeBlanc. But the instant teamfight impact usually felt by a LeBlanc more so than Azir, who wants to set up a bit more reliably. The GP, if he's just able to lane against Kennen and ult, he's got a global advantage there as well. So right now, ES Sharks trying to find ways to monopolize Drake and even threaten a bot lane turret dive. The last part might be tricky, but now at least the control of the neutrals has been all ES Sharks.
See a lot of control around that second mountain. VSG really taking this seriously. You don't want this team with the Kai'Sa on it to get double mountain and even just have that ability to push onto turrets as well as the objectives. See the gold here, yeah. 2 extra plates down in the bottom side, but again, a lot of those did get split. I think only one of them was full for the Kai'Sa as VSG going to move on over as Catch is doing the Rift Herald after 14 minutes, and VSG will net themselves a Mountain Drake.
All right, now ES Sharks have at least leashed the Rift Herald, but you can see VSG trying to come in formation to stop this, and ESS give it up. So now actually the neutral chicken has started to swing towards VSG. But we see more though. Kuzan gets a burst, but no more, and actually the Rift Herald didn't fully release. This is big for VSG.
Yeah, wow. In the meantime, Light is going to take down this turret, so there's that, but definitely a couple of massive objectives going the way of VSG.
Come in as a group and claim your rewards was actually the VSG way. Till this time dictated to around the river, and thus objectives had gone the way of ES Sharks, and we were impressed with how they defended around the Rift Herald before, but now both things go to the team with the Azir, who's happy to get him scaling. The GP is keeping no Trinity Force completed till probably next back timing, maybe even now. Light has the transformation on the Q evolve here with the double pickaxe to get him over the threshold with the inclusion of the Doran's Blade. See where the item build goes through further from here. Rage Blade Infinity Edge, of course, the heavy expectation.
Yeah, it's pretty much mapped out on that side. Looks like Black Cleaver for the side of the Lucian, as now we're doing the pushing in the other lanes. Jisu is going to be a little bit late to this one, and actually with the Rift Herald coming down, looks like they'll just hand over this turret. Although, as I say that, we do have the LeBlanc hanging around. We also got Rek'Sai down there. It doesn't look like they'll try to save this turret.
And it's the tempo lead to do this, because SoaR has actually defended this turret for the push timing here. So tempo, or the ability for these minions to push it much faster for VSG, is pretty important here.
They have to use the GP ult, as now Kuzan getting frisky in the jungle. Not going to be able to lock anyone down, but an extra charge and Azir in the mid lane means that VSG all of a sudden are kind of running ES Sharks around the map.
Very, very simple way to put a point that ESS are taking much more turret damage and much more slow about getting counter turrets, about resetting, about getting vision on the map. Important note, at 16:55 with 2.5 minutes to Drake, the speed doesn't have a lot of penalty. Yes, it's more little bits of chip damage in other lanes, but there's no answering objectives mid lane.
Oh, Kuzan dodges that ultimate really clean. Nice little trade from him, has the corrupting clock ticking. Is going to win that one up against the Azir.
Blanc used to be the matchup into Azir, because when the old Azir wall parameters were there, the return from your W wasn't counted as a dash that the Azir could interrupt. Now it's fine either way, as things have changed there. But yeah, Kuzan's LeBlanc. It's the nameplates being important here. No kills on the board just yet, but you know there's a lot of lurking in this game. It's 1-to-1 in kills. The Resonance Leapers are no doubt out there, but it's all leading towards core items being done, and the potential with a 180 evolved Kai'Sa, a LeBlanc, and just GP as a champion. Soon these health bars are going to go down much quicker.
Certainly feels like it, as the Sharks just even clearing out some vision in the VSG red side jungle as well. Next objective for them should be this mid lane. You can see that Rem most likely is pinging to try to save it here. And it is going to be really hard to take this out, especially up against a Azir.
I mean, it's LeBlanc GP Kai'Sa, right? There's no way to push through Azir X. As long as someone else is there to stop a turret dive, it's fine. So very, very easy, and the teleports have allowed him to make those frequent back timings. So Banshee Veil on the way. That's usually the tipping point where LeBlanc really can't do anything next to an Azir. Coming soon. And at that point, has VSG reached a kind of compositional 5v5 point that while it doesn't quite ape what we saw in terms of Game 1, Game 2 scaling, there's a lot to like about VSG around 2.5 items.
We'll see if they can get it going. As once again, not too much action in this one, although Kuzan just barely going to miss the chains there. Is up 3 levels onto Veritas, but actually 2 levels. He's level 12. Still does have that pressure onto the Lucian.
And if you're playing this game, you know, this is the epitome of a lull state that we talk about all the time. The fans have a lot of fun playing with. But if you're playing the game, it also has the effects of the lull state, which is you're just kind of hitting minions. You're not really getting close to killing any champions. It's not necessarily brainless, but it's very straightforward what teams want to do. People make mistakes when they don't have to think much. It's
Mighty Bear, he doesn't have a flag. He used it on the Scuttle Crab, so they take him out. No escape for the Jarvan. Should be another Drake that goes to the side of the Shark.
And that's the penalty of the lull state that I was building towards. It's top lane.
Kuzan in a bit of trouble, but is going to try to distortion over. He's going to dodge that Proto Belt as he's really trying to play around here, but not going to be the case. Nice pickup there for SoaR.
All things considered, though, they take down Drake on the bot side. Mighty Bear went for a walk because during the lull state, while everyone was cleaning their camps, pushing their lanes, the map control was ES Sharks around the river. Mighty Bear went to contest it alone, and Dora the Explorer died in this particular case. Quite sad, actually. But that's what happened, is that you don't necessarily have the same intensity, not on the edge of your seats during the lull state. It's building towards something, but only with the map hacks overview can we see what it's building towards, and the mistake is an unforced one, but made by Mighty Bear, and he goes down. Watching the replay here, SoaR, when he connects the first stun, the all-in is understood, and not normally would you have kill pressure on Kuzan, but chases in. Kuzan trying to role play the clone, not gonna work.
Not much else you can do. Not gonna pull off the pawn escape that time around.
How do you kill this turret is the struggle for ES Sharks.
Doesn't look like you do as long as people are there, even without a Zero. You got 3 people able to spare the buses, clear out that wave.
I'm trying to think about future states, because it feels like at some point we're going to clap, team fight's going to happen, and that team wins. Because right now it seems like everyone's getting their items eventually. GP's caught up, Kaiser's got 2 items, and I'm feeling like at almost every breakpoint I can think of, I like VSG's comp more. It feels more reliable, because Kennen's AoE will threaten more than anything that ESS are able to do. Now, if they get map control and a base check happens, it doesn't matter, but I'm thinking of pure 5v5 item for item. I'm liking most of the scenarios for VSG, so I'm trying to come up with one where ESS wins a good to honest 5v5 brawl, and I'm not seeing one about this. Maybe you could think about it, but the items feel like they're going to be following pretty predictably, and right now most of them seem to suit VSG.
And speaking of which, you talked about that Kennen play is looking to come around the bottom side.
No flash though, so he won't be able to find as much access to ESS, so we're smartly hugging the top side of the map and not the bottom.
Looks like that was maybe communicated by the side of Jisu, who's now taking a one-on-one, gets the slowdown, and so the slicing Maelstrom, not slicing much.
Seemed just a kind of a rage ult, so that was definitely a waste. Mid lane, they're throwing out the orbital nuke.
This is one way to try to get the turret, as now in goes Kuzan, and a huge amount of damage goes the way of VSG. And so that's how you do it. You take out a bunch of their health bars, and you just push in S5. Kuzan's still looking for more, but the ward is there to push him back.
But it's actually more technical than that, Valdez, because remember they didn't have river control. The Kennen roamed up and went, what about the flank? The Kennen gets spotted by the GP walking back to lane, also rage ults. So then you say, well, this is the time to try the orbital nuke into the Kuzan flank. There's no way SoaR can be there. He doesn't have ult, he doesn't have flash. If you never are sighted as Kennen, you don't make that play as reliably or decisively. But the Kennen mistake was the introduction for ESS to take down a turret that seemed almost impossible to claim.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great point, because GP and Kennen, they have 2 massive team fight game-changing ultimates. And if one of them is on cooldown and the other team has theirs, you might as well try to force something, and forcing the mid turret to go down is definitely what they were looking for, as we mentioned before.
It's one of those moments where the pro game is more the build-up of the things that we used recently, rather than just throw your ults and hope. Sometimes it is, bless RNG. Let's see what happens. Like we've seen the 50-50 Barons, and these things happen all the time. But in this particular case, it was extra information being the kernel that actually really cemented it to being a smart idea and a nice decisive call by ESS.
So they make it happen. Next Drake is going to be the Ocean Drake, as Light does a ton of damage. He's going 1v2 right now, has the Galio behind. As Veritas taking damage from the Raptors, the Popcorn Chickens got angry. As now Mighty Bear here is just going to have to disengage and get out of this one.
Still on the Baron, by the way.
He is so confident today. He's going in 1v2. He says, okay, team, now we're doing Baron. But Veritas has the red buff, so actually has a nice amount of HP regen here.
And do note, he wants to disengage.
Jisu is going to be able to get out of this one with this blast, but Mighty Bear kind of all alone here awkwardly. Is going to take a huge amount for the slicing Maelstrom. They were baited into it. The 1 kill comes in, and the health bars aren't there. SoaR with a really nice Zhonya's to stay alive in this one. Is even going to be able to get away, but then the flash comes in. He's not going to be there, as Veritas, the only damage dealer left, taunt comes through. And it doesn't look like the Sharks are confident to go for any more.
It just felt like ESS decided this is the time we fight, now or never. All of it was Light diving in alone, using all his summoners, getting all the enemy summoners, and then tanking the Baron to start it to actually provoke this fight. So Light apparently heard something. I guess Veritas did some ASMR whispering, and he didn't like what he heard, because he went all in, even though they had no vision of the enemy jungle. That was double defensive teleports to help out Veritas.
Yeah.
VSG were just as surprised. And then Light says, I'm taking the Baron, by the way. We're fighting here. So Light's got somewhere to be on Friday night. Maybe a hot date coming up later. They start up the Baron, and then if you watch this, Mighty Bear is actually super disconnected from his team. There's no flash on Kennen for a couple of seconds, so it's just a dive in and a space buying time, and SoaR plays this really well. He has the poker face at the start, then actually all-ins, and gets huge value on the back end. It ends up being pretty even, and ESS, they're only about Barons today, Valdez.
We're doing it again, but this time, look at Light, he's still doing it. It's like he just desperately wants to get out of this game and take the Baron down. It is going to be stopped, though, as they're not going and looking for any 50-50s this time around. They will only go for peel-offs, turns, it looks like right now.
Now I wish I was in the comms and fully understood the Korean from ES Sharks, because it actually feels like Light was playing a normal game, and then like he had the light bulb moment where you remember where the coach said, wait, late game is 0, 3 items, that could be really bad. And he just zoomed all in and put trust in the hero's entrance, because the ability for this game to have no action into, not mindless action, but it wasn't really introduced, it was just kind of a sentence fragment of like, by the way, and we started going, so bizarre how the action started, but welcome, given that the first 25 minutes were a bit of a snooze fest.
I like it. Maybe it's the challenger style, as they just want the action to happen. We got another Ocean Drake into a third one spawning next, which, again, I suppose is okay if you're looking to peel off of the Baron and have some regen to get you ready for the next fight, but another Mountain would have been pretty nice.
Mountains are shared. Neither team, I guess Cinderhawk Jarvan is a tank, but otherwise the tankiness quotient is pretty limited. But Baron damage, pretty high on both teams, you would say. The thing I was going to say about ES Sharks as their first Baron bait start is their Baron turn actually kind of sucks. Like, they can do Baron decently, but they have to do it quickly because they don't have a lot of tankiness. But their turn is, I guess, LeBlanc opening up a hero's entrance, a Rek'Sai single target knock-up, but their turn really isn't strong, so decent Baron damage with their Baron turn. What that means for VSG, who have very good kite back and very good engage, is you can be a little bit more, okay, you got the Baron at 6,000, we don't believe you yet, because ESS ideally wants you to come and stand in barrels and stand in Kai'Sa damage. They don't really have other engage tools, so because of that, VSG should just kind of take that extra deep breath before they face check, or before they give too much credit to an ES Sharks Baron stuff.
Yeah, and they've been good about that so far. First time was just Veritas, almost dunked on by Light, but second time around they were pretty calm, cool, collected about when they were going to go in, and they called the bluff, and ES Sharks were like, damn, well, I guess we have to stop this. So, re-entered a little moment of less action, as you always think about this GP in the side lane, who's very scarily just getting tons and tons of gold here.
And look, GP is towards the scariest side of champions you throw 6 items on. He definitely has that reputation. I feel like, in effect, it never matches the hype. Now, Zoom popped off on GP over in the LPL, but
big barrels.
I feel like a GP that didn't like get random 7 kills in laning phase and get his 6 items early, I feel like the GP that says, wait for it, I'll get there, never really meets the hype. What's your take on the solo queue GP that does get the 6 items but gets it at 45 minutes? I feel like the payoff is not Vladimir instant win levels of pain.
Or even, you know, a Petty to carry, or like, that was kind of funny. Didn't get interrupted by that one, but
the chain-link barrels,
you know?
The chain-link barrels are not that reliable AoE. The ult does a lot of damage by the end. You've got some magic resist, so it's not killing you. You don't get to parlay many people in the face, and even if you do, it's not going to be blowing people up. So I feel like the payoff's not what it once was after multiple different GP reworks. 6 item AP cannon, pretty scary, Valdez, all I'm saying.
Oh boy. Well, we're using everything to try to kill SoaR here, as look at the burst damage, and he might get away.
Oh,
but no! Okay. Well, he's got a barrel here. Can he get it? Yes, he will. That's just going to be LeBlanc coming in, as was pretty cute. to avoid that for as long as possible, but pushed a little bit too far up the lane and paid the iron price.
Piggyback gank from the LeBlanc, much more free to do that than the Azir. Works really well, and that's the first thing that's changed the game state. Look at Jisu. He certainly does damage to turrets.
Look at Mighty Bear. Now you see him.
I almost missed him.
Yeah. You might miss him if you weren't paying attention. As Kuzan, he's level 16. He really doesn't care about anything right now except just blowing up members of VSG. Was able to catch one and really open this game wide open after picking up that void step.
And we might have to call the WWF and report Mighty Bear and add it to the list of endangered species. Speaking of species,
I suppose the Gargoyle is one, but Pure is going to pay his price as well as GuGer, surprisingly tanky. Nice Emperor's Divide is going to get everybody away. As it doesn't look like Katz was going that deep with his ult. SoaR trying to come in, but not quite able to make it happen.
Baited by BDD's Azir. I thought maybe with the space being opened up, the nuclear damage would come in. But it's 2.5 items. The front line was almost dead. Mighty Bear again, almost on that endangered list. Kuzan is scarily accurate today. He's a good LeBlanc player.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely the guy to look for. I mean, looked fantastic on the Lucian. That's a big confidence
When in
booster.
doubt, Valdez, start the Baron.
Yeah, and you talked about running into barrels. This is exactly what they don't want to do here, VSG, and it looks like Mighty Bear is not going to be extinct this time around, but the Baron is, as ES Sharks able to pick that one up in 32 minutes.
9 minutes after the first all-in around Baron, they claim this one. Mighty Bear at 0 HP, so he's always going out. They walked up here, just trying to get the Demolish proc. And as the Demolish proc comes in, interruption on the Justice Sponge, and that's what prompts a pretty all-in fight. But remember, Kenneth is not going to be able to get there promptly. Only now respawned, and his Slicing Maelstrom is on cooldown. That's why VSG get a really nice ultimate, but that can't actually do anything after the Emperor Divide. And the Emperor Divide down, the jungler's health bar vacated, free Baron to the side of ES Sharks.
And the Sharks are saying, please give us an Elder as soon as possible. We'll take out this final element. Drake down it goes. Third Ocean means that basically these guys aren't going to be losing too much health.
And I love that ESS, while they weren't listening to the English broadcast, they probably agree with our assessment of, ooh, these bake timings in a 5v5, they don't really suit us. VSG has it better. They make the piggyback gank, and that's how you subvert on paper team fight losses, because in the late game it's way easier to win with a 600 CS Sivir win condition, with a Vladimir who hits big item spikes. But if you're perfect around avoiding 5v5s, good things can happen. Speaking of avoiding,
Nice flash over the fat wall there. You don't see that every day.
gotta love those fat flashes. Catch himself, able to get over a wall, and they're putting VSG on a merry chase. End result, some more turrets to the side of ESS.
They got the 1-3-1 going. As it's going to be hard if they don't catch someone out, as they tried with Jisu to stop this push in every lane.
It's getting reminiscent of EU Masters, the Rogue versus Misfits Premier game, Rogue Esports Club versus Misfits Premier game, where there was a 8-kill Sivir against a 10-death Taliyah Pantheon bot lane, but Zed and Nico able to run them around the map. They're trying to avoid those 5v5s. Never are they interested in a 5v5 until they have to, and that so far has gotten them all the way into breaking the base. So nice stuff from the ES Sharks.
Yeah, they got first blood on the base, essentially. That first turret, inhibitor turret, going down in the lane of Jisu, almost hitting level 18 here, but with no flash, can they get on top of him here? In a ton of trouble in the Cataclysm. Looks like this time it'll go down, but of course, once you do commit everybody down there, Kuzan can come in and do a bit of damage. The mid turret also goes down, and it's all just for the price of the 1v.
And that's the important part. The last moment there, Valdez, is we're so trained in X person died, what a big win for team that got the kill. But so often in games like this, as we saw from the sleight of hand, the kind of juggling act that ESS have been doing, the minimap was the bigger story of now the base is broken in 2 spots. And yes, one of those bases you can put down a sand turret and repel for a while. You kill Jisu, but it doesn't change anything for VSG unless they get a 5v5 where Kennen, Azir, and Lucian can all do damage. And right now, the only time that's come close to happening is when Light decided it was to be so. And if he's a bit more reluctant to engage the team fights in the future, maybe VSG never get that 5v5.
Does feel that way, especially with how well Kuzan's playing. I mean, this guy only got caught out the one time up on the top side, and that was just a sneaky play from the side of SoaR. But ever since that death, he's been all over the team at VSG. Just picked up the Rabadon's death cap as well.
And it feels so bad to have to go more 4th item against just LeBlanc. But that's what Veritas had to do, so no Infinity Edge in the 4-item build means that blowing up the squishier frontline from ESS, it'll happen over time, but even with the longer time guaranteed by the More Shield, Veritas not necessarily min-maxing damage by any means.
Yeah, feels pretty bad. As we saw what he was able to do in some of those team fights in Game 1, where he was flashing in and just critting people in the face for over 1,000. But you missed some of those numbers with this build you're talking about. As now we have some interesting timings come in. We have the Elder spawning in about a minute, and we do have Baron just 10 seconds after. So things could get interesting. VSG have a Mountain Drake of their own, so maybe, I suppose, their best hope would be to try to split objectives here.
And, oh, we'll hold the point. Who's in trouble?
Who's on a lot of trouble here, has to flash the wall.
Just like Zoom showed, what you will see today is with the IE change, crit gangplank is back. 50% crit, Infinity Edge in the build. Normally the barrels are just 500 damage AoE slows. Now, with all of the barrel buffs and Infinity Edge bringing back crit gangplank, you face check the wrong barrel chain link, especially with no armor, and you get blown the hell out.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter who you are. I suppose if you're, you know, a Rammus with a bunch of armor, you're going to be a bit happier, but nobody likes that in this game.
I like it when the barrels can crit, and that's actually in the build part, because it's much more action-packed than GP. Kind of just being annoying.
Bigger numbers, right? More flashy.
Burst is definitely flashy. People like shiny things. Let's see if we get those shiny damage numbers. Jisu's setting up around the Elder. Face-checking a GP's barrels used to be one of the scariest things in the game a few years ago.
Take a look at Light just soloing this down like it's nothing. Like it's a regular Drake just goes down to the 80 carry. Redemption is going to come in, but Light's going forward. SoaR with the defensive Maelstrom coming in, and GuGer only going to get the support here, trying to re-engage his Mighty Bear. But it just looks like VSG don't have the firepower, as in goes the entire team of the Sharks, and the rest of VSG just being burnt down from that Elder. Trying to put some damage back and a TP back, but that's just hilarious in the face of the Sharks, as it looks like they'll take out SoaR, and they should take out the game.
The chase is very fruitful for the ES Sharks as they've adjusted their drafts and played the early game. Even in games like this, where VSG try to make a small change, a couple of members come in, the amount of greedy scaling goes down. It's not enough, and the ES Sharks, welcome back to the Rift, 2-1 up, and that means only a single more game victory required to book a date against Jin-Air Green Wings on Sunday for the final spot into LCK Summer 2019.
And the Sharks starting off slow tonight with the loss, but then 2 very convincing wins in a row. I mean, this looks like they're the obvious better team coming into this one after Games 2 and Game 3. They still have to win 1 more. But it's looking very likely that that will happen unless VSG have some kind of magical, you know, mixture of the players that they can put in to somehow stand up to the Sharks.
Well, we know there'll be a mixture. It's just where and who, because I think you have to bring back Ryan. I think you have to go for the players who clutched it out against APK Prince. The match that qualified VSG for this tournament, they subbed back in Ryan in game number 3, and it was the lineup that started this whole tournament with Ruby in the mid lane, with SoaR in the top side, Veritas and Pure. Do you go those 5, or do you throw in Moo and Minute, who are the duo lane that haven't played so far today? Unfortunately, VSG, because they were Jisu Busan Plus, we thought would be so powerful in the Challengers career after the Kesper Cup, but it really, really has felt like the very old adage of too many cooks spoil the broth. Like, it really feels like this was a ramen dish. You'd be like, this is confusing. Like, there's so many flavors here, but the overall taste sensation isn't enough to bring me coming back. And VSG want to come back to Lowell Park. This is where they want to be. They want to be in LCK Summer, and they're going to have to find something inspiring, and they're going to have to find it fast.
I don't know what that mixture is, what kind of concoction they can come up with of the players, but I think Ryan coming back is probably what I'd like. Rem didn't look all that bad. I think Kuzan kind of just popped off a little bit too much on his LeBlanc. Maybe you just keep Rem in, maybe throw Ryan back in as well, and then try to shut down Kuzan's big picks.
How about blue side, Moo Minute? Because remember, they have side selection. They've chosen red every game. If you're willing to play Sona Tarek, and the word is that Moo and Minute like to get frisky more than some other duos around, maybe you have to do it ASAP, Valdez. Who's to know, but there ain't any more time left over.
One shot left over, unless you're going back down into challengers, and neither of these teams wants to be down there. They want to be in the big show. Nobody wants to play in the minor leagues. It's all about the major leagues. But they're really on the ropes here, you have to say, as it was pretty much all in favor of the Sharks. Just a couple of moments where maybe 200 gold ahead for VSG.
That was the closest to plain sailing. If it goes down that way, I think the Sharks win 3-1.
I would have to agree. I mean, they've been impressing for sure, especially Kuzan looks fantastic in games number 2 and 3. So we'll see if they can do it again after this quick commercial break.